What is up, everybody? It is Halloween, the month of Halloween, not actually Halloween because this will be out before Halloween, but it's the spookiest month of the year, so I decided to do one of the spookiest, if not the spookiest, playable race in the whole of classic vanilla WoW. So we'll see you after that intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you being here. First, we got to go over some old business. Did we kill Jane Goodall?
I think we did.
I think we killed Jane Goodall. I mentioned Jane.
And it's crazy because we don't talk about Jane Goodall very often.
Yeah, as everybody knows, this is a pretty Danny DeVito heavy podcast, and not actually Danny DeVito, but Danny DeVito as the little goat guy from Hercules. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. One of the first celebrities we ever mentioned besides the goat, the actual goat and the goat, Danny DeVito, passes. So R.I.P. to Jane Goodall. No more references in the science community because we wield too much power, apparently.
But you know what? She's up there with Harambe, so.
Yeah. Did you see the meme? I'll put it up here. But it's like when Jane Goodall gets into heaven and it's a guy.
Yeah,
and,
I sent that to you.
Oh, did you? And
it was
he
a
was like,
TikTok.
he's like, "What up, Queen? Let me get my hug." Yeah. Sorry, not trying to make light of Jane Goodall. Also, I called her Jane Goodman. I'm a big John Goodman fan. Please, is he dead already? Hopefully John Goodman doesn't die the week we release.
He might be, now that you say it.
But to be fair, it seems that it's only like scientist-based curse. So I think John Goodman will live it off.
And, not to downplay her death, she did a lot of really good work with the primates. And, we wouldn't know as much as we know about them. Not to be all mushy, but truly a legend. R.I.P. I hope she's living it up. Up there. We
didn't mean to kill you. Apparently, we have a death-based science curse.
Sorry.
So this week we're going to be talking about Bill Nye because he is just becoming exhausting in the modern media landscape.
We're not talking about Bill Nye.
Anyway, so what do you know about Bill Nye? I really
Bill.
Please don't say that because I might say the come town bit, and we definitely don't want to do that. All right, yeah, so that was old business, obviously. R.I.P. the Queen, Jane Goodall.
As I would say.
Who?
The monkeys.
The gorillas?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely getting demonetized off of YouTube. This is definitely getting a Wikipedia, Jane Goodall, tag under the...
references?
Yeah, not the references, but have you ever seen a video when they talk about, 9/11 or the virus, they'll link the Wikipedia as it's some source of this is gonna get the Jane. This is automatically gonna get the Jane Goodall. Anyway, so here we are. We're talking about undead. I think I'm gonna put a little bit of I keep saying juxtaposition. It's really hard being your own editor because then you have to listen to all of the dumb shit that you say and you mispronounce. I also don't want to pay an editor because it's a look into our intimate life and all the things that we say outside the camera while the camera's still running. But
which is mostly just yelling at our animals. Let me be clear.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I keep saying I want to say exhibition, not exhibition.
What are you trying to say?
So I keep saying juxtaposition.
Okay.
And I'm trying to say extaposition, I think.
I don't know.
Is the word I'm trying to say. I know what the word is. I know its meaning. I just can't say it because I am
touched with the tism.
Yes, I'm tism touched. Kind of like how the undead are touched with undeath. Great segue. So I'm gonna put exposition here just because when I was thinking about this episode while I was working, I wanted to shout out a teacher of mine. I'm not gonna dox her. I had an English teacher. Her name was Mrs. L. Obviously, that wasn't her real name. She played WoW when we were in high school with me and my friend, who I will also not dox. I just call him Mark. That's definitely not his real name. Me and Mark played WoW, and we found out that she played WoW, and she had a lot of weird stuff going on in her life. I'm not trying to dox her, but she was like 28 and she was married to like a 50-year-old sugar daddy. Yeah, very strange, very strange.
Interesting.
Anyway, she played Undead. She was a very good English teacher. I just wanted to, if she ever does watch this, I just want to acknowledge that she was a very good English teacher. And two, what was funny about that was I read a lot as a kid and I could like read out loud. And mind you, this is in high school. So like kids should know how to read out loud. Anyway, we had to do the thing where like they pass around reading to everybody. And since nobody else knew how to like read the punctuation, everybody would just throw it to me. So we would have like reading hour where we were like all pass it reading aloud. And towards the end of the year, it was just me reading the books because nobody else could read like the punctuation and such.
Which is crazy for you.
Yeah, because I can't speak now, so I've really regressed in my
I'm sorry.
literature. Uh, uh, um, yeah. Anyway, so just shout out to her. I don't want to say shout out to all teachers, but shout out to that teacher in particular. Yeah, this isn't a teacher-friendly podcast. To all of our teacher listeners out there, I am hostile to teachers. I'm putting it out there. We're going to get the Wikipedia to that. Anyway, so after all that, we are talking about the undead. So, why can't I press my beer down? So I pose a question to you that I pose at the beginning of every podcast. What do you know about the undead?
I assume they're zombie-like.
Why would you assume that?
Undead zombies.
Yeah, yes, obviously.
Yikes, tough crowd. I truly did not know that this was a playable race in this game. So this is, I mean, you've said it in previous episodes, so it's not new to me right this moment, but it's new to me within the series. So yeah, I don't really know anything other than they're zombies. I assume, I don't know. Let's say, what do I think they would be like? Do they have necrotic powers?
Not particularly. I mean,
I guess it depends on what class
you play. Yeah. The cool thing about undead is in the beginning of the game. And
in the beginning,
they every class has a racial. I know, a little racist. But their racial ability was cannibalize. So any living mob that you killed, and if instead of like eating or like to regain your health in between them, you could cannibalize, so you wouldn't need food. So that was pretty cool. And there was this emotion where there was this emote where they would like they would go to the ground and do this. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. So I guess that's necrotic in the sense, or they could just be hungry. I mean, however you want to slice that up, that's basically how it's sliceable. So. The weird thing about this is because we're doing this after elves, the amount of research I needed to do for elves, I didn't think I did enough research for this because I needed to do like 4 hours of research for night elves. But we'll get into it anyway. So, number one thing is, how did they become undead? Because they are dead. Now, they might be undead, but that doesn't make them living. So, the undead were...
You just said so many words. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's like a double negative.
No,
undead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Undead.
So what you got to understand about the undead is they were the former humans that lived in the lands of Loredan. Loredan, yeah. But they are now dead, obviously. And how that happened was the events of Warcraft 3. There was something called the Plague of Undeath. So in the first episode, we're going to do a lot of pullbacks for the first episode. So in the first episode, I told you about the grain, and they poisoned the grain to make them
Do you remember that?
Eat it, and then they would become undead. Right. Okay. So that's how the undead started in Warcraft 3. So they are people who lived in those lands, and then they got fed the grain, and then they became undead. So they couldn't die. They couldn't move on to the afterlife. They essentially just had to stay in this halfway space. So that's how they became undead. Now, when they were undead, they were until a certain point they were under the control of Arthas, who was at that time becoming evil. Like I explained, he started off as a nice good boy prince, and then he became evil through the corruption of the Burning Legion, and we're going to go over that a little bit more. Sorry if you're hearing the sound. I got to set up my notes here. So I told you that Arthas went to look for the sword called Frostmourne. You got me the T-shirt. So as he's looking for Frostmourne, he's also looking for something else called the Helm of Domination, which kinky, I know.
Hot.
This is gonna be a after dark episode. If you know what I mean. Anyway, sorry, I'm drinking a lot of beer. They were out of Velo 6 milligrams. So I had to move up to 9 milligrams, and it's really intense. It's really intense, chat.
I'm buzzing.
I'm buzzing. So Arthas can control the undead through the powers of the Frostmourne, and because he's the Lich King. So basically, when he puts on the Helm of Domination, becomes the Lich King, and because he is the Lich King, he can control the undead. So everybody that they kill, it's like an old double whammy from back in the day. Everybody that they kill, they wipe them off from becoming part of an army that's going to fight against them, and then they use them to fight for their army. That was the reason that the Plague of Undeath was kind of very ingenious, because not only did it take soldiers out of the battle, it gave them new soldiers, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, Arthas becomes the Lich King at the end of Warcraft 3. He goes and he gets Frostmourne and the Helm of Domination. Then he can singly control the undead. Before Arthas can control the undead, they're being controlled by either Kel'Thuzad, which was the Lich guy, or they could be controlled by forces of the Burning Legion. Excuse me. So once he puts on the Helm of Domination and has Frostmourne, he can now singularly lead the undead, which is kind of like a huge plot point in Warcraft 3, because it's kind of the point where the student becomes the master, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So before, he was under the control of the previous acting Lich King, who was, sorry chat, I gotta pussy out of this 9 milligram here. Leaving that in the pot. God damn it. Anyway, he was in, the previous Lich King was an orc warlock named Ner'zhul. He was working for the Burning Legion. Arthas gets to be the Lich King because Ner'zhul is like not as effective. He's been very corrupted. There's some internal strife between Arthas and Ner'zhul. So Ner'zhul leads him to the Helm of Domination and Frostmourne in hopes that Ner'zhul can corrupt Arthas and make him work strictly for Ner'zhul. But Arthas kind of controls power, and now he becomes a bigger and badder big bad, if that makes sense to you. Bing, bing, bong. Bing, bong. Arthas becomes not the first Death Knight, but the most prominent Death Knight. A Death Knight is just basically the opposite of a Paladin. So a Paladin has like light magic.
Sure.
A Death Knight is going to have like dark magic, necrotic magic, and stuff like that. Death Knights are the first quote-unquote hero class in World of Warcraft, so they were not part of the original 8 classes. Yeah, 8 classes. And they were not playable until Wrath of the Lich King. And when they did come out in Wrath of the Lich King, you had to have a character that was at least level 50 on that server to make a Death Knight. So that's why they called it a hero class. It was also called a hero class too because Death Knights have always been in the game. There's a few Death Knights, like the original Death Knights are made by Gul'dan, and he literally like sews humans together, and then yes, and then
like Frankenstein-esque?
Yes,
okay,
yeah. And
sorry,
then,
I went human centipede, and I was like, that can't be right.
Yeah, kinda. I just had to sew asshole in there somewhere. Anyway, so he does that. Um, and Death Knights were only on the Horde side, and they were basically like animated. Um, they were reanimated human warriors and such. So they had always been in the game since I believe Warcraft 2 or whenever the orcs take Stormwind. I believe that's Warcraft 2 or in the interim between Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3. Um, so the Frozen Throne, sorry, time to go back to the Helm of Domination and stuff. So Arthas needs three things. He needs Frostmourne, the Helm of Domination, and the Frozen Throne. The Frozen Throne is literally just a throne that is encompassed in ice.
I've learned a lot in all of this, and I've learned that most things don't go above surface level.
Yeah, well, some things do, but the Frozen Throne is literally a frozen throne. It is also like a major plot point of once he sits on it, that's when he officially can control all the scourge forces by themselves. The undead were called the Scourge because they were a scourge upon the land. So once he sits on the Frozen Throne, he has a Helm of Domination on. He's in possession of Frostmourne. He is now the Lich King, and he can control the undead or the Scourge.
If I had to sit on a Frozen Throne, I don't think I'd be a very nice person, so I get it.
Are you saying he was a good guy until he put his ass on the throne?
I'm saying, you could have saved him, but then at that point...
You could have saved him by giving him a modestly warm throne? Okay.
Or a heated throne. A little electric heated throne. I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't want to sit on a block of ice, so I get it.
Anyway, when he sits on the Frozen Throne, Nerzul's spirit and Arthas' spirit kind of become one. Arthas, however, through time, becomes more dominant, kind of kicks Nerzul out of being the Lich King and becomes the Lich King himself. So that is, I don't want to say basically how the undead happens. I'm just trying to look through my notes. So, Master of the Scourge, Helm of Domination, boom, boom, boom. All right, so another person that becomes very prominent in the game, and half of my audience is going to shudder by her mere name, and it's not because of the events of WoW Vanilla, but it's the events of an expansion many, many years in the past, and because she does some objectively fucked up shit, and she kills our boy Vol'jin. I'm ruining that plot if nobody's played World of Warcraft.
I would imagine that most people watching this have played it at some point.
I just hope that there's not somebody who's played it and they're listening to it and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna go play it. I'm sure at least people are aware. Anyway, Sylvanas, let's go.
Oh my god, I was like, name the person so I can type her name in.
Sylvanas, Sylv.
I was just making sure that was it.
She is the Banshee Queen. You're going to see her when she's alive and probably when she's undead. You want to see when...
sexy. Damn, okay, sexy.
Yeah, and that's what the developers at Blizzard said and then ruined her story. So, congratulations.
Damn, she got some thighs.
She got Sylvanas' thighs. Can I get a screenshot of Sylvanas' thighs here, please? Anyway, so as Arthas is taking over the world, he goes to a little town, not a little town, let's say a major city called Quel'Thalas. And Quel'Thalas is where a remnant of High Elves live, as we've gone over High Elves. Sylvanas is the Ranger General of the High Elves. So she is the top, she's the top shotta. She is she's a leader of all the Rangers, which is like a hunter type deal, right? Arthas then goes to Quel'Thalas because Quel'Thalas has the Sunwell in it, which is a part of the Moonwell, which is where the Nordrasil, the trees we were talking about. So what happens is some elves steal some of the Moonwell. They take it to Quel'Thalas. It's called the Moonwell. I'm paraphrasing here for all my lore heads, but that's basically what happens. Arthas is trying to get to the Sunwell, I believe, to summon demons. I'm just going to go with summon demons just because that's what they've been doing with it the whole lore-wise. So Sylvanas is such a top bitch in that campaign that instead of killing her, when he fights Sylvanas, he says, "Oh no, no, no! I'm not killing you. I'm going to raise you as an undead." So she becomes the Banshee Queen, and she is Sylvanas is under Arthas's rule, and she basically becomes his top shooter essentially. Yeah. So
Okay.
in the moment of death, Sylvanas is literally like pleading with Arthas, like, please just kill me. Like, he's killed a majority of her family at that point. He's burned down the city. He's done everything. And he goes, no, because you were such a hard opponent to fight, I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to raise you as a Banshee Queen and you're going to fight for me. So sad, number one. Number two, Sylvanas' last name is Windrunner, and she has two sisters that are also big in the lore as well. One of her sisters marries a very powerful mage. They go back in time. We're not even going to explain that. Just going to go. Whoop, we're going to go right past that. No, she doesn't go out in time. She basically goes into outer space, gets lost for many years, and then she comes back. And she didn't know Sylvanas became a Banshee Queen and stuff. So the next time she sees her sister, she is essentially like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And I think I'm misremembering that. Maybe she did know Sylvanas was a Banshee Queen, but she didn't know she was part of this thing called the Horde and everything. Her other sister also marries a mage. The Windrunner sisters do have a type, and it's human male mages. They all Nathanos isn't a mage. He is something else. Nathanos is like Sylvanas' love interest and stuff. So, yeah, I just wanted to illustrate that the Windrunners had a type, and it was
A mage.
human.
They have a mage kink.
They do have a human mage kink, yes. The weird thing about that is we never see any progeny because they would be half human, half
High elf.
high elf. There is one guy who is Illyria. I don't think it's Illyria. It's his other sister and Turalian's son. We see him in the Burning Crusade, and he is like a half human, half high elf. They don't really go into that. Later in the game, we see what's called the Arathi, and the Arathi are essentially they're half human, half elf, but they say they're neither, but they're really both. So, yes,
Just pick a side.
yes. Now, what's important about all this is a couple things. High elves taught humans magic initially. So humans, there was a war, if I'm remembering this correctly. The humans needed, the elves needed the humans' help. I think this is the Troll Wars, if I'm remembering correctly. The humans said, cool, you need our help? You got to teach us magic. And so that's where something called the Kirin Tor was invented. The Kirin Tor is a magic city. So it's essentially where all the mages live.
Diagon Alley, got it.
Yes. It's I mean, it would be more like Hogwarts, but yes. And so the Kirin Tor is very important in later expansions. But I just wanted to illustrate that high elves and humans have been, I don't want to say intermingling besides those Windrunner sisters, but they've all been kind of trauma bonded throughout the years.
I'm sure they'd be fucking too.
Yes, obviously, because you have the guy who I just mentioned, but yeah, there's no progeny, there's no half human, half. Now I'm sure there's RPers out there that RP is that, but not in the game. You can't make that in the game.
If
Anyway,
I was half human, half high elf, I would just really hope I get the crazy eyebrows.
yeah, of course. I mean, you would want more high.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying that wouldn't always happen.
Right.
I'm saying if it were me,
We're not going to talk about the Punnett Square guy. He might die. I mean, he's been dead. That was like the 1800s, but I know you know where Punnett Square is. I know you know.
I know.
Thank
You threw me off by saying it. I'm just saying for the record, if my parents were human and high elf and I came out and I didn't have the crazy eyebrows,
You're going back in?
I'm going back in the womb.
You're going back in. So, Anyway, just wanted to illustrate basically what the Kieran tour was. Not that it's too relevant to what's going on, but just that one, the Windrunner Sisters had a type, and two, just kind of wrapping up everything in a neat package because we might be bringing up the Kieran tour in this website or in this pod anyway. So we got Arthas and we got Sylvanas, and you're like, well, why am I bringing Sylvanas up? Because Sylvanas actually becomes the leader of the undead. So,
Sure.
like I said, every faction has like a king or like a hero. Like Thrall is the orcs. Night elves, it's Tyrande Whisperin. For the gnomes, it's your boy Mechatork.
Hell yeah.
Who else did we? Dwarves, it's King Magni Bronzebeard. So Sylvanas is the leader of the undead, and that's like their faction. I don't want to say king, but faction queen. Literal faction queen. The
faction queen.
Faction queen. So because yeah, I was right, and it was in my notes. Chat, you just gotta read your notes. Arthas needed to reach the Sunwell to resurrect the necromancer Kel'Thuzad. Despite Sylvanas and her rangers destroying a bridge and hiding a key, Arthas used necromancy to overcome every obstacle. So, another reason the Quel'Thalas is very important is geography-wise. Lordaeron is right next to Quel'Thalas. It is the closest elven kingdom to them. So that's why that's why he knew Quel'Thalas was there. It's not really explicitly stated, but most high elf cities are like hidden by magic. So you can't just like walk up on them. In the case of the Sunwell, and we'll just go into a kind of half story, like there's warding stones around the city, and the only way Arthas was able to get in the city is because he bribed a guard and essentially promised him power. And then as soon as he told him where the binding stones were, he was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I think kills him, which based.
I mean, you would have to, because if you didn't, you'd have a witness.
Yeah, because that's what he's worried about.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, if you're like, oh, you're getting the secret and I'm running in, but like the little guy's going to go tell on you. So you have to kill him. I'm not saying I would kill.
I'm not saying that I would.
I'm not implicating myself. I'm just saying the logical in that scenario would be to kill.
So anyway, that's why we had to touch Sylvanas and Quel'Thalas as well.
You had to touch them?
The city? The Windrunner Sisters? Sorry. So Arthas' power wanes at the end of Warcraft 3. Sylvanas senses this and was like, this is my cue to break free of the Lich King's control.
I want to break free. Okay.
Basically, yes. So yes. Now all of this is retconned later in Shadowlands, which is another expansion that happened 15 to 20 years after this happened, that retconned a lot of the good story just to add a character that they have now abandoned. We don't talk about Shadowlands, but this is the original story. This is the best story. I'm just gonna say it. The whole jailer thing was dumb, so we're not gonna go in there. But just for posterity's sake, we're gonna say that.
Posterity. You said prosterity? That's not really a word, and it sounds like prostate. You meant posterity?
Posterity. Prostaterity?
Yeah, that's
anyway,
what I thought you were trying to say.
I might have been.
Well.
I might have been. So, Sylvanas becomes free of the Lich King's control. She then realizes that she can wake up other undead from the Lich King's control. And that's where the undead storyline picks up in Warcraft 3. So when you make an undead character, you're literally in a crypt. Yes. So rightfully so, right. So you're in a crypt and you basically just regained your sentience. Consciousness, sentience, yes. Go ahead. Go off, Queen.
So, just so that I'm clear, undead are created from people that are already dead, the undead aren't procreating.
No. They're not making undead babies, if that's what
Damn,
you're
that's
asking.
crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Now, and this is why people dislike Sylvanas. In later expansions, Sylvanas is like, we got to make more undead. So and even in the original game, they kind of talk about it. They have this group in the Undercity, the Royal Apothecary.
Apothecary?
Yes. And they are trying to, yeah, they do, because it's one of the first couple quests. They're trying to make a new plague so that they can get more undead people so they can make a bigger faction. Now, I don't think Sylvanas like co-signs it the way that they're doing it. Sylvanas, because there's still undead in the world, or there's still undead and Scourge in the world that aren't free from the Lich Kings. Like, not everybody gets to.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's still undead in the world that aren't like free like they are. So Sylvanas originally was like, fuck it, we're just going to get the gang back together.
Right,
and we're going to
right.
try to help free these people. A couple expansions down the line, and we'll kind of get into this, Sylvanas is like, fuck that, we're just going to kill more humans so we can get more undead. Yes. Also, Sylvanas is the only, and it's because Arthas raises her specifically, but she is like the only undead non-human. Because all the rest are human.
Okay.
Like, there's not like an undead dwarf race. They're all just ex-humans of Lordaeron. So,
okay.
And the only reason, like,
I guess our assumption is that the town that was plagued was a human town.
Yes.
The first time around.
Yes, but also, Arthas's whole campaign kind of has to do with Lordaeron because that's where Arthas is originally from.
Okay.
So when he comes to power and he's raising people, and in the events of Warcraft 3, they're not really in anywhere else besides Lordaeron.
Got it.
So it makes sense that a large group of the undead, or the largest group of undead, would be humans, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Not that there weren't other races of the Alliance also fighting with the Alliance to take down Arthas, but a majority of his kill streak, if you will, takes place in Lordaeron. So that's why they are undead. Or that's why they're human. So basically...
I haven't even looked up what the undead looks like, so...
Yeah, you can just look up...
I mean, I'm sure I can put together in my head what they look like, but just for...
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll give you a crazy China censorship fun fact tidbit.
Okay, boring.
They're pretty dope.
I mean, they're zombies, that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really nothing else.
So China has a very weird censorship thing in video games. So in the Chinese version of World of Warcraft, they look less like zombies because that's like against TOS. That's against TOS in China. So there's many differences between World of Warcraft in America and China. But one of the biggest ones is, and I don't think there can be skeletons in the game.
You're correct.
The Chinese market does not like skeletons. I've never figured that out, but that's no skeletons, they said. So
interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, and we can make a whole podcast of things that China.
Like there's this one big fat
demon guy.
Yeah. And so in the American one, his guts are hanging out and stuff.
Oh, that's the Abomination. Yeah.
Okay. And
he's
the Chinese one, he's all stitched up.
Yes. So ironically, there's one of those named Stitches in the Undercity. Yes. And like I was saying, how the big tree guys were the tank class for the Night Elves. Yes. That's the big tank class for the undead.
Understood.
And, right. And that's literally just a sewed up. That's a whole bunch of humans sewed up.
Yuck.
Yes. Very morbid. That's why we're doing it for the spooky season.
Yep.
Anyway.
I was so confused because I wasn't looking at you when you made that noise. I was like...
So, you got it?
Yep. I just need to...
Readjust. So, let's just go over big fell swoops, basically, of what make undead undead. The first thing is they're very into basically they have their own free will now, and that means two things. One, they have their free will from the Lich King, and then two, because a lot of these people were humans, they have their free will of whatever their class, like actual like class, not like what class you play, but what class you are in like a kingdom.
Okay.
Like so, because they are undead and they're this new thing, they're just like where. I'm a new man. I'm a new boy. You know what I
Felt.
mean? So that's very
I mean, they're reborn in a way.
right.
So.
So that's very important to the undead series or undead thing is that they are, um, they're free to do anything and like whoever they were in the previous.
Like chaotic neutral.
Yeah, I wouldn't say neutral because as we'll get in,
evil.
I would say chaotic semi-neutral. Let's just say semi-soft. So number one for that. Number two, because they died and they had to go through all this shit and they can't go to heaven or Warcraft's version of heaven, they have all kind of become a little bit evil. And two, they don't really have like emotions like living things. So they're more fueled by like power and advancement in this new in this new undead culture, and they don't really have like attachments to emotions like they used to. Now that's because they died and they got raised up, and you know I don't think a lot of people would be hunky dory after that happened.
That's what I'm saying. Like, why would you?
Right.
Yeah.
Also, going back to the story I was saying, when I was younger, I thought only emo people played undead. So as a kid, I would go because I was very anti-emo growing up.
Which is crazy, considering who you're married to.
Well, I'm still anti-emo. You can't stop it. So I remember literally as a kid, like going and making an undead and just making fun of emo people. And like the people, like a lot of people played undead because it was like a cool thing, and you can't. Playing like an undead warrior or like an undead whatever, that's not something in like a lot of games. So a lot of people just played it because it was something new. And then I'm like 14 years old being like, Panic at the Disco or whatever sucks. Fuck you guys. And like these guys are like, what is he talking about? Yeah, but I mean, within emo culture, right? Wouldn't you want to be undead?
No, I'm not saying that you're.
All of the culture is very like sort of Victorian.
I'm not saying that like you're wrong, because if I played that back then, I probably would have. Yeah, I'm going to pick the zombie.
Right.
I mean, I used to wear like I Heart Zombie merch all the time.
Right.
So like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying like rude.
So in 2006 and 2007, if you were leveling up an undead class and some kid was spamming chat about how much he hated emo, hate to break it to you, that was probably me, and you're welcome. Anyway, so
where are you?
Where are you? So anyway, that's sort of the characteristics of the undead. Is that they're like, we're our own brand new thing now. We don't really have emotions. We don't give a shit. And again,
also very emo.
Yeah, thank you. And also, like they're trying to like put on for themselves. They're trying to like make themselves bigger and better. Now, too, when they join the Horde, and this is like a sentiment within the whole Horde, besides maybe the Tauren, is that they're like, and it literally says it in the intro. So I think I explained this, but every time you make a new character, there's a little movie that plays beforehand, and it like moves the camera until your character is in the beginning. So it's like giving you the backstory of that race. So in that intro, it says like they only joined the Horde out of alliance. They didn't really join it because they wanted to, or they had any like will to fight for the Horde in the traditional sense. They just joined it because if they didn't, they would be at odds with the Alliance and the Horde. They're not going to rejoin the Alliance because then that means, first of all, the Alliance probably would have not accepted them, number one, because, and we'll go over this, but factions in the Alliance are like, you guys are Scourge. It doesn't matter if you're under the Lich King or not. You're still Scourge. You're still evil. We're not going to accept you. So they join the Horde in like just as a matter of practicalities, if that makes sense. So, whenever that. So when they wake up they then call themselves Forsaken. So they're not undead. They're not, even though the race is called undead. In the class selector, they call them like Forsaken. They will say Forsaken's will or Forsaken for Sylvanas, what have you. So the terms, even though they are not really interchangeable, they're still interchangeable of undead, scourge, and Forsaken. They all mean the same thing. Even though they really don't, because undead and scourge is before they regain their sentience, and Forsaken is what they call themselves afterwards. So, what gives a lot of the scourge validity is the fact, I don't want to say validity, but a lot of them resurrected, not where they died, but they resurrected close to where they died. So, when the plague of undeath happens, it doesn't just affect people, it also affects the landscape and the creatures in it. So instead of having like wolves and shit to kill, they have these things called dark hounds, which are basically zombie wolves. So the plague of undeath, as it takes over, it not only changes the people, but it changes the actual earth itself, and then the animals and stuff like that. So there are still some wolves, but they are either skeleton wolves or the dark hounds. So that was always like, it was, to me, it was kind of cool because it was like, it showed the repercussions of like the repercussions of the plague wasn't just limited to humans. Like the whole world changed. And like I said, most of the undeads were from Lordaeron. Their starting zone is very close. Well, I mean, it is in Lordaeron, technically. That's not what they call it. But so I think that makes them feel very still at home, even though they're living through this new existence. It's like if we were undead and then we pop back up and we were like still here, you know what I mean? We would still be like, yo, this is my shit. Just because I'm undead doesn't mean that this is my shit. Later in the game, that is becoming more of a forefront. And I think they're going to explore that a little bit more in the next coming expansions. They've kind of already touched on it. Later in the game, there is an event where the humans meet their undead family members that are undead. I think it's called The Gathering, not to be with the Juggalo Gathering.
I was going to just say.
Yes.
Woo woo.
Woo woo. There was no woo wooing at this gathering. So
The gathering is hysterical. Okay.
yeah, but again, that took, let's say, 50 to 70 years in game time to happen and to like sort of be around. Bingo bongo bongo bingo.
Hold please. Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, yes. So now that we've talked about the undead, we're going to talk about sort of the world that they are surrounded by. So the people in Lordaeron that didn't get affected by a scourge create this organization called the Scarlet Crusade. The Scarlet Crusade is all humans. They are fanaticals who, as the scourge was happening, they basically locked themselves up in their towns, and they have a giant monastery because it's like sort of a religious group as much as it can be. So as all this bad shit is happening to them, they lock themselves up and they become very isolated from the world. So when they do reopen everything and they see everything as a scourge and undead or whatever, their whole main existence is to wipe the scourge off the face of the earth, so that they can reclaim Lordaeron for their own, because they are the original denizens of Lordaeron. The reason the Scarlet Crusade is important is because when you're leveling in the beginning, that's like the only enemy you fight. You fight the Scarlet Crusade, and then you fight gnolls, which are, I don't think we've gone over gnolls, but gnolls are sort of like furbolgs. They're like pig people, is basically what gnolls are. Warthog people, if you will. Go ahead.
Well, because again, I have gnolls, but they're like, I don't want to say werewolves.
They're sort of werewolf. Gnolls and WoW are definitely more like warthog people, I would say.
Oh my god, hold on. Okay, yeah, not the same.
Yeah,
Well, they're hyena humanoids.
they're hyenas.
That's what they're saying.
That's what it says. All right, hold on. I gotta take.
So, gnolls are the same.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Gnolls are the same throughout. There are hyena humanoid things. In Dungeons and Dragons, the world, they are hyenas that have been infected, and in Baldur's Gate, like if I don't kill them fast enough, they then turn into them.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So, unknown WoW where they come from, but they're hyena humanoid
Things.
creatures.
So yeah, so that's really the only two things that you'll be fighting, and then of course there's like bats and wolves and other things like that. So really, the beginning zone of undead, which is called Brill, up into the Undercity, which we'll get into, is basically undead fighting against the Scarlet Crusade that are trying to kill them.
Sorry.
So yeah, basically they're just fighting the Scarlet Crusade. That's their biggest thing because the Scarlet Crusade is within their first zone.
Crazy, like your neighbors are getting sick, and you're like, I'm gonna
Lock
just
it
hide.
up.
Yeah,
Lock
like,
it up.
That's crazy.
Also, I think that as crazy as it sounds on the outside, I think they're actually the smartest people in that situation, along with who will become the Worgen, which we're going to get into a little bit.
But also, conspiracy theory. How do they know not to eat the grain?
Well, because they were like on villages surrounding the first village. They knew the grain was infected when they get to Skullomance in Warcraft 3. So it's common knowledge that the grain is infected. They just can't tell people soon enough. So after it becomes known, then the Scarlet Crusade kind of happens. Now, the craziest thing about the Scarlet Crusade is one of the members of the Order of the Silver Hand, which is the first order of paladins, which Arthas and his mentor, Uther the Lightbringer, are part of. Uther, just for people who don't know, great name, but do you know where it comes from? So in Arthurian lore, Arthur's father, who is the king, is named Uther Pendragon. So that's another crossover, callback, whatever. So one of the original members of the Scarlet Crusade, of the Knights of the Silver Hand, starts the Scarlet Crusade because he's like, all is lost. We got to save what we want to save. Another thing about the Scarlet Crusade is, of the original founders, one of them is, and this is going to be a plot twist, also corrupted by a demon of the Burning Legion. So even though that it is this crazy organization that is kind of fighting for the survival of people in Lordaeron, it is also corrupted in itself. That's sort of how the Burning Legion works. Because of that, I don't want to make this a Scarlet Crusade pod, but the story of the Scarlet Crusade is pretty interesting. Maybe we'll make an episode where we go over the coolest things in the original game, and we'll go more over the Scarlet Crusade. But basically, the leader is this guy named Mograine. Mograine was a part of the original 5 Knights of the Silver Hand, so he's original paladin. Yeah, we'll get there. What's up?
His name is what?
Mograine. That's his last name.
He didn't want to eat Mograine, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I never put that together. Mograine's son is corrupted by the guy who is being corrupted by the demon. Mograine's son kills Mograine, and the Scarlet Crusade becomes worse for it, and they become more isolated and more sort of evil. So they don't just casually hate the Scourge. They really hate the Scourge.
They're like, this is on site, on gang.
Yeah, they're very, very fanatical. And then I think they want to hurt anyone who helps the Scourge as well. So they're natural enemies of the Horde, because they see the Horde as helping the Scourge. So it's not just the Scourge, it is whoever is involved with the Scourge.
Sure.
So I don't know. Anyway,
I'm scourging. Sorry.
I'm scourging. So Besides that, we went over the Knolls. We went over the Scarlet Crusade. What else is cool about the Scarlet Crusade? Go ahead. Sorry.
Nothing. I'm just following along with you. I'm waiting to get back to the undead.
Well, they're a big part of the undead is the fact that they have to fight against the Scarlet Crusade. The Scarlet Crusade does not want them to exist and to live.
Yeah, well, I don't think they wanted to exist either, but they didn't really have a choice. Now, did
Hey,
they?
yo, emo.
Crazy.
So we'll kind of end on, well, not kind of, but we will end on the Worgen because they're pretty important, even if they're not important in the beginning. So the Worgen are furries. They are werewolves. That's essentially what they are. They are humans. Go ahead. You can type in Worgen. That's fine.
Worgen.
Worgen. Yes.
Do you think that maybe the W is pronounced like German?
Like
Worgen?
Worgen? No, because they're like very Victorian. Like they have Victorian architecture. They have like top hats. They have like hunting hounds.
Large lupine humanoids.
Lupine, yeah. So the reason Worgen is important for when we're talking about undead in the world that they exist in. So Worgen become a playable class, I mean a playable race in Cataclysm, but they've always been on the and then we'll go over the Undercity too. Sorry, but they've also have always been in the undead lands. So go ahead. Sorry.
Not the Blood Moon pack. Sorry, that's like every insert yourself.
Yeah.
They like fan fiction or whatever you want to call it about werewolves.
Yeah.
Always on the Blood Moon pack.
Yes. So the Worgen are actually to bring it all back around, are connected to the Night Elf and Druids. Druids can turn into different forms. So you have the bear form, the Moonkin, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Worgen were a form that Druids could turn into, but it was like a forbidden form.
Okay.
So they were always sort of in the world. What happens is that, and this is what I wanted to explain. So the city next to Lordaeron is, it's coming to me. I know the name of the city. Please.
Beef is trying to tell you.
I know. Google Greymane, city Worgen are from. Sorry.
Oh, baby. I was on the Worgen page.
Oh, my God.
Gilneas.
Excuse me. Gilneas. So, back in the day when they were fighting the Scourge, originally, most of the human kingdoms came together to create a pact that they would all help each other fight the undead or the Scourge.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was going good. I don't want to say everything, but Gilneas originally said that they would. Then they saw that it was a giant fucking mess. Then they had a giant wall around their city called the Greymane Wall. Again, Greymane is their king, so that's why it's called Greymane Wall. They saw it was a giant clusterfuck, and they said, "Hey, fuck you guys, we're closing the wall." So they walled off the city.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because they didn't want to turn into undead, what they did is they took, not all of them, but some of them took the curse of the Worgen, which was in the area because there was a mage called Archmage Arugul, and Arugul was trying to experiment with the Worgen. And so, yes, Rule 34, experiment with the Worgen.
No, thank you.
And so, and again, I'm paraphrasing all of this. I know there's a lot to Archmage Arugul. But so the Gilneans, because if they were so terrified of dying, as most humans were, and it was also the Gilneans also, before they closed the city, knew that if they died if they died by eating the grain and all that stuff, that they would be undead. So they said, well, fuck it. Because if they get bit by a Worgen and get turned into a Worgen, they can't die and be raised as undead.
Got it.
So they not all of them, but a major part of the city decides to get cursed with um, the curse of the Worgen, which is what they call it. So when they finally become unlockable in Cataclysm, you go and you can finally go through the gates of Gilneas and you can see the city, which is being attacked by Sylvanas and the Horde at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that their king and a lot of people in their court were actually I don't want to say forced to become Worgen, but they didn't want to. They wanted to protect their families, and they didn't want to die, and they became Worgen, and they've been keeping it a secret.
Um, is it like a classical werewolf where they turn?
Yes. So
Okay.
when you play Worgen, in combat, you have to be in Worgen form, but you can switch between human and Worgen form in the actual game. Yes. Um, So the reason that's important into the context of undead and vanilla WoW is because the second zone that you go into as an undead is this place called Silver Pine Forest, which is a big spooky forest, and you can see that there are Worgen around
Mm.
the Greymane Gate, and it's foreshadowing that that's what happened because there are a pack of wild Worgen that were in there because of Archmage Arugel, but you can tell that something with the Worgen is happening in Gilneas. And Gilneas was the, I don't want to say sister city, but it was the closest city to Lordaeron. So it's foreshadowing in game that something Worgen based happened in Gilneas,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really cool foreshadowing. As a kid, there was these things called WoW private servers, and I was like a dev of one. I wasn't really dev. There was like 10 people who played on it, but you could have like Minecraft developer mode where you could like fly over and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like convinced that there was like a whole city behind there that because I didn't know anything about development, but I was convinced that the city was back there and they were hiding it from us. So I was very infatuated. Once I learned the story of it all, I was very infatuated in it. Now, when Gilneas came out, it was kind of a bummer. It's even though the city is in the game, it's not a city you can go to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a city you play through as the Gilneas like starting zone.
Mm-hmm.
So like events happen and stuff, but you can't really play in it.
In it.
Right, but it is a very Victorian era city. Like that's what the buildings look like. All the guys have top hats, and monocles, and shit. So it is mad cool. But within the context of the undead, that's what's happening there. So the last thing, and I promise this is the last thing, is the Undercity. So the Undercity is the major city of the undead. So like I explained, all races have an Undercity, or all races have a city. The cool thing about the Undercity is that it is a city built within the ruins of Lordaeron. So Lordaeron was a major city for humans on the Eastern Kingdom. That's where Arthas is from.
Mm-hmm.
He is the prince of Lordaeron. Essentially, his father was the prince of Lordaeron. And to talk about that, only because I made a short about this, so I want to bring it up. So I told you when Arthas comes back from Northrend in the first podcast, he goes and he kills his dad.
Mm-hmm.
So because the original designers of World of Warcraft were awesome people and they like shit like that, you could go to the throne room where Arthas kills his dad because it's in Lordaeron. And if you stand there long enough, you can hear like faint shouting, and that is supposed to be the shouting of Arthas killing his dad or
Wow.
his dad yelling at Arthas. Or
Spooky.
yeah, very spooky. Spooky season. That's why we're doing this in October. So that talking about world building specifically like that was something that was very cool as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
As something also I remember going on the forums and learning about as a kid. It was one of the first things that I
Easter egg.
Yeah, it was an Easter egg. The funny thing is I put a short out on that pretty early in my shorts, making shorts, and like everybody had the same experience that I had, that it was like, whoa, this was like, I remember when I was a kid and I found this out. Like everybody sort of had the same core memory of being like, holy shit, this is crazy. Now the reason Undercity is called Undercity is obviously because and I don't know if the undead built the Undercity, but you literally have to take an elevator to go into the ruins of Lordaeron, and you
Mm-hmm.
go down, and that's where the Undercity is. So it's a
Gotcha.
city underground. There's like green sludge that, like all the other towns, like Ironforge has like magma in between
Mm-hmm.
its district. Stormwind has like water, like canals and shit going through its
Yeah.
district. The undead had like this green sludge going through the city. Very vibes, awesome vibes. Undercity has the best vibes. What else can I say about the Undercity? Back in the day, there used to be, and I made another short about this. There used to be a reference to nightclub in it. There used to be these two undead guys that walked around talking about starting a fight club, and if you follow them around more, they would actually like a whole bunch, not like a whole bunch, but say five or six undeads would get together and you
Mm-hmm.
could actually see them fight. That was like an old Easter egg, and that was actually, shout out to this because you'll remember this. That was actually on G4 that I learned that.
Oh, that's funny.
So I wanted to shout that out. And all the characters, all the undead characters are named after characters in Fight Club. So um, would say besides Ironforge, Undercity is probably my favorite city just because it's so unique. And it really illustrates like the undead story too, because they're using the runes of where they used to live as their home base, but they're also like expanding it and making
Mm-hmm.
it better. So the Undercity and the undead, even though I used to make fun of them as a kid, are definitely some of the coolest orc races for sure. There's something very creepy about them, but at the same time, there's something that is very I don't want to say enchanting, but something very like aspiring, because they're trying to make the best out of a bad
Mm-hmm.
situation, and that's the early story of the undead is all about that. Is like, we're not going to roll over and die, literally and figuratively. We're not going to quit. We're all going to work together. We're all these undead. We're all in this together, and we're going to you know try to make our shit better. And looking back, I think, I mean, granted, that's the story of like all the horde side, but I think Undercity definitely illustrates it the best. And Undercity does, I mean, not Undercity, but the undead basically do have the best looking zones in the style that they're in,
Mm-hmm.
because all of the forests are like spooky.
Yeah.
All their architecture is like spooky, and it's like, it looks like haunted houses and shit. Their mount, every class has, I mean, every race has its own mount. Orcs have wolves, humans have horses, dwarves have rams, Tauren have kodos, which are basically like rhinos. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way I can explain them. Undead's mounts are skeletal horses.
I love that.
Yeah, so it's very cool, and they very leaned into it. Whoever was in charge of the undead um, part of things really, really knocked it out and nailed it. And I, for one, really appreciate that. And it's something that is uniquely Warcraft, because, like I said, there's not too many other fantasy games where there's playable undead zombie type characters. So it
Mm-hmm.
was something that was kind of like the gnomes too, in a way. It was something that was very uniquely Warcraft. It was uniquely World of Warcraft, and it was uniquely sort of lore brought over specifically from Warcraft
Yeah.
3. So yeah, so we're gonna do the final questions and then we'll be out of here. What did you learn?
I learned a lot once again. Somehow we keep doing these like really long, in-depth ones later in the evening where I
Mm.
am like trying to absorb everything.
Mm.
So maybe next time I don't know. I need to
Call off of work and do it at 9 a.m. in the morning, you're
Yeah.
saying? Sorry, I got to do my pod today, boss. Not going to be in.
Sorry. No, I learned a lot, and there's a lot of things, and it is very interesting that it connects from like, I mean, all of the races we've talked about all have connected back to Warcraft 3, but this one I feel like really does because it was a big part of the storyline. Thanks for shaking my camera, Sage. And I think it's very interesting. I think that this is the first one I've heard about that makes me want to play the game. Probably because I'm emo.
Exactly.
But
I was never wrong.
But I do find it very interesting, and I think it does sound really spooky. It sounds really spooky, and I want to play it. So,
gotcha. So yeah, that's gonna round it up for us. I try to concise it down. Somehow, I thought this was gonna be less lore than the Night Elf. The thing with Night Elves, it's like thousands of years of lore.
Yeah.
This is like 20 years of lore, but a lot of shit happens
Yeah.
in that time. Where like with the Night Elf lore, a lot of things happen, but it's not like boom, 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 boom. It's like this happens, 500 years go by.
Yeah.
This happens, 500 years go by.
Yeah.
So that's the nice thing about Undead is that it is the newest race in the game, and everything that happens pretty pretty recently and everything. So that is the good thing about Undead. Like I said, I've always had a affinity for the Undead because the more you learn about the Undead, the more you like them, and the more you can relate to them, because it's like, especially in this fantasy setting, like you are also new in this fantasy setting. So it's like, it's very relatable. And especially when you're a kid, I think that all the other classes, maybe besides like orcs, kind of need like an introduction or some back history to why they're important. Whereas Undead, if you played Warcraft 3, you were like, oh, I fucking know these guys. You know what I mean? You don't need to know like about Varian, who is the Human King. You don't need to know about the War of the Three Hammers. You don't need to, which is the dwarves. You don't need to know about all this other shit. You just kind of understand what happened.
Yeah.
So I think that was the cool thing about Undead. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. I said the emo thing. Shout out Miss L. It's like how I said, it's very enlightening that they're trying to become their own thing. It's really the story of young adults.
Or maybe there's just a little emo in every one of us.
Okay, no, we're not ending it on that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. There are millions and billions of videos that you can watch right now, but you're watching this one, and we really appreciate that. Thank you for the continued support on the podcast and the short, as always. I always think I'm not going to be able to sum everything up in a reasonable amount of time, and I do. So shout out to myself. It's like, no. Shout out to everybody watching it and everything. Like I said, that's really cool. And shout out to the people who haven't played World of Warcraft. If you haven't, it's a great game. It's a particularly spooky game. They're actually, sorry. So World of Warcraft has like seasonal modes sometime. They might be making a Among Us styled seasonal mode. I'm not sure. They talked about it in the patch notes and everything. So the last time they had what was called Plunderstorm, which was like a it was sort of like Fortnite. So
Fork knife. Sorry.
Fork knife. So we might stream if that one is Among Us, because that's kind of what it was hinted at.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be like undead themed Among Us or whatever, but if it's something that comes out like that and we both kind of can bangs with it, then we'll bangs with it, as the kids say. Anyway, still don't have an outro line, but thank you everybody for watching. Appreciate you. The next one will probably be, all we have left after this is Human and Tauren. So I didn't really want to end on Tauren, not because they're not cool, but I wanted to end on something else. But we did Undead, so we will do the Human Kingdoms next. And then we'll do the Tauren, and then I'll have to think about content again. So, yep. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it from us over here at Explaining WoW to My Wife podcast. I hope you guys have a very spooktabular, spooky season. Do some spooky shit if you're into that. If you're not, just drink Oktoberfest. I don't really give a shit. Anyway, peace, guys. See ya later.